I think that's a big mistake that a lot of advisors make when they think about email marketing. They say, oh, I have this giant list of people that I either bought or I found on Zoom info, wherever, and I'm just going to blast out emails to them. And there's a couple problems with that. Is number one, these people have no idea who you are. And in wealth management, it's such a trust-based industry. I think from my own personal perspective, would I respond to somebody asking to take control of my life savings when I have absolutely no idea who they are? And for me, the answer is no. I feel like for most people, the answer is probably no as well. So when we say email marketing, we're talking about a permission-based email marketing funnel where you offer them something for free, opt into your newsletter, some kind of lead magnet. And once you deliver that to them, then you start hitting them with a pre-established sequence of emails that goes out over a period of weeks and months to move them towards what pretty much every advisor I think is after, which is qualified appointments on their calendar.
This is the Afternoon Advisor, where we break down how certain advisors grow so fast it looks like cheating. I'm Nate Hoskin. I'm a financial planner, a digital marketing nerd, and I spend my days building and breaking growth systems in my own businesses and in yours. Today, we're talking about how advisors can use email marketing to book 5 calls for every 100 email subscribers. I'm joined by Patrick de Cesare, the founder of BFL Advisor Marketing. Patrick has earned a following of over 600,000 people across Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and grown his email list from 0 to over 22,000 subscribers. Today, he helps RIAs and financial advisors turn attention into booked calls with ROI-focused email systems. Patrick, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming out. So when we talk about email marketing, are we talking about like cold email, sending out thousands of emails, or are we talking about something else?
No, not at all. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of advisors make when they think about email marketing. They say, oh, I have this giant list of people that I either bought or I found on Zoom info, wherever, and I'm just going to blast out emails to them. And there's a couple problems with that. Is number one, these people have no idea who you are. And in wealth management, it's such a trust-based industry. I think from my own personal perspective, would I respond to somebody asking to take control of my life savings when I have absolutely no idea who they are? And for me, the answer is no. I feel like for most people, the answer is probably no as well. So when we say email marketing, we're talking about a permission-based email marketing funnel where you offer them something for free, opt into your newsletter, some kind of lead magnet. And once you deliver that to them, then you start hitting them with a pre-established sequence of emails that goes out over a period of weeks and months to move them towards what pretty much every advisor I think is after, which is qualified appointments on their calendar.
Absolutely. And before we get into kind of the science behind turning that attention into intention and then inevitably into booked calls, I'm curious to know, because advisors have a lot of things that they could be doing to grow their practice. Where does email marketing sit in their ROI stack? Is it the highest ROI thing they could do? Is it the 15th priority? Where does it fall in what they should be doing on a monthly basis? I
think any financial advisor would tell you referrals is always going to be their highest ROI thing they can do. I'm thinking about Kitsis' graphic that he put out pretty recently where he ranked the marketing activities. And as I recall, email marketing falls somewhere in the middle. But the problem that I see with a lot of advisors is they either don't do it at all, which is leaving a lot of money on the table, or they're doing it very poorly. There's a stat out there, because I know you do social media marketing through video. McKinsey & Company said that there's a 40-to-1 difference between doing social media marketing alone versus just email marketing. So with that being said, not doing it is, it's a very low risk, high reward type of proposition. If somebody opts into your email list, they're telling you that they want to hear from you. And, just by hitting them with, a predetermined sequence of emails, either talking about some kind of client success story, crushing an objection they might have about working with you, or hitting on some kind of pain point, that really, with the people that we work with, really moves them towards booking a call with you.
Absolutely, and I absolutely noticed that with all of the social media marketing that I do, that attention is absolutely important. And I'm a huge fan of saying, okay, I can drive hundreds of thousands of views in any given month, but those are all vanity metrics. That doesn't actually turn into real results for your business. The connective tissue that turns someone's attention into an actual booked call, sure, is partially your website, it's partially the ways that they can interact with your firm digitally, but it's really email, right?
Yeah, and there's another side to that as well, because, and I mentioned this to your other advisors on the webinar we had earlier, is that your social media presence, that's rented land. If it's Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg owns it. If it's X, Elon Musk owns it. Email is an asset that you control, and you can control the cadence, you can control how often you reach people. And another side to that is with social media marketing. Say you have 1,000 followers, maybe 100 or 200 of your followers are seeing your actual post. And it's not always the same 100 or 200 people. Once you have an email subscriber, like I said, you control when you reach them. And as opposed to it being, maybe 10 or 20% of your followers that you're reaching with email, with, good emails, and not just, blasting spam, we see anywhere between 30 to 40% of email subscribers opening and reading and engaging with those emails. So it's a much better way to reach your audience once you have somebody's email, once they've given you permission to contact them.
Absolutely. Well, then really quickly walk us through, how would you get someone to give you permission to send them an email? What does that look like?
So for me personally, and I know you've done a lot of this too on your own, how I built my email list was just giving away some kind of free asset, either a budget template that I just had somebody create for me on Google Docs that I sent out. I made a video highlighting how to use it, and I either directed people to go to my link in bio to sign up for that, or if you can use ManyChat, comment a word and I send it over to them. And just by doing that for the budget template, I got thousands of opt-ins just within a matter of weeks. And for advisors, if you're doing some kind of written lead magnet, talking about it in your videos, putting calls to action in your social media posts, driving people to a landing page that directs them to leave their name and email address. You send them the lead magnet in your first email, and then after that, they get the predetermined sequence of emails.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk about the predetermined sequence. But first, you mentioned to me that you could expect that someone, if they're sending the right emails, if they have 100 email subscribers, they could feasibly expect 5 booked calls over 90 days. Was that it?
Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable expectation. The thing about people opting in for free stuff from you, 95% of them, they're just looking for something for free. They're never going to become your clients. But with financial services industry, you don't need everybody to become your clients. If you can get just a few people to raise their hand, it can end up being very profitable for you. So yeah, like you mentioned, if you get 100 email subscribers over the course of about 90 days, if you got 5 email subscribers to opt in to book a call with you, that's a very strong result, and that's pretty typical of what we see in the clients we work with.
Yeah, I mean, the financial advisory space is a single-digit space. If you get 5 clients from an activity, that's a massively profitable activity. You're not a software company or like a QuickBooks that needs tens of thousands of users to make any of the economics make sense. Like, those next 5 clients are seriously going to move the needle pretty much regardless of where you are in your business. So if we get people to sign up and we have emails, what do we send them? Like, talk me through that funnel to take someone from saying, hey, I would like to download this free item, this lead magnet, into the emails they receive from you.
Yeah, and you made a really important point there, is that, you don't need tens of thousands of subscribers or, a bunch of different names to sell software to. A lot of marketing advice out there, it's for e-com brands, it's for course creators, it's for people that don't control people's life savings. So the marketing advice for financial advisors is going to be very different than the marketing advice that a lot of people read. So as far as your question is what to actually put in the emails, number one, client success stories. That's going to be your bread and butter. That's going to show people that you actually help people just like them. Tony Robbins, I saw a video from him pretty recently where he was even talking about how, showcasing your value and showcasing people that you've actually helped is going to be your number one marketing asset you have. I would even go as far to say that, one good client success story is worth like $10,000 in ad spend. So client success stories is number one. Put those in your emails, anonymize them if you have to. You can use names if, compliance allows and your clients allow. Number two is pain points. A pain point is something that keeps your ideal client up at night. So say if your niche is doctors, your financial advisor services doctors, one of their pains might be they have absolutely no time to worry about their finances. They're constantly in the office, they're constantly seeing patients, they're working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every night. They don't have time to worry about their investments and their financial plan and all that stuff. So that'd be a very solid pain point to hit on with them. Another one would be, I'm thinking more around objections, but another pain point would be just they think they can do it themselves. A lot of, I guess that's not really a pain point, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought here.
Taxes. Taxes are a huge one for my marketing.
Yeah, for me, for the clients I've worked with, taxes, and that applies across pretty much all financial advisors. If you send something about taxes, that's going to get a lot of engagement. That's going to get a higher open rate than usual. Because let's be real, taxes piss people off. It's one of the things, especially with like doctors I mentioned, they probably earn several $100,000 a year in a lot of states. Like say you live in New York or California, probably 50% of your money is going to taxes. So if you paint yourself as somebody that can lower their taxes, they're going to be a lot more likely to engage with you. Client success stories, number one, pain points, number two, and then crushing objections about working with you is number three. One of the biggest objections for any potential client of a financial advisor is they're like, oh, I can do this myself. I can watch a couple YouTube videos, listen to a couple podcasts and kind of piece things together. I don't need to pay somebody, 1% of my money every single year to do a financial plan for me. And one of the most successful emails that I wrote for a client was just comparing the cost of DIY to doing surgery yourself. Like if your spouse needed surgery, you wouldn't watch a couple YouTube videos and go in and start, trying to fuse vertebrae together. You would call a surgeon, and comparing a financial advisor to a surgeon, showing the cost of getting it wrong, that's a really common objection people have, and just highlighting why that's wrong, changing their beliefs around that, very solid way to get people towards talking to you.
Absolutely, and hearing about that immediately reminded me of one of my emails that I send out, which is, I totally understand that you would like to DIY, but those who do DIY tend to run into these 30 problems. And I list all 30 problems, different decision points you're going to need to make, choosing among the universe of investments, choosing which accounts, optimizing your tax location, balancing tax diversification, all of the things that you're going to have to sound out. And then, of course, my favorite, because I know you are a ski instructor, if you're going to go skiing for the first time, are you going to hire an instructor, or are you just going to go see if you don't split your skull open on accident? There is always a value to hiring an expert. And one of the things that you said that I absolutely adored was this idea that, are you going to wait to hire a trainer until you're already fit? Right? That's what so many people do with their money. They wait until they have $2 million, they wait until they have $10 million, and then they go and find an advisor. And they have to unwind all of the mistakes that they made. They have to figure out how to do it in the late game rather than from that moment where you're truly building well.
And that's another really common objection. Oh, well, now's not a good time. It's like, okay, well, when is a good time? The example you use, are you going to wait to hire a trainer until you're in shape? Of course not. Are you going to wait till you're, a multi-millionaire before you hire a financial advisor? For most people, the answer is probably no. And, highlighting, like you said, listing out the 30 things that could go wrong if you try to DIY things. A lot of people, maybe they have 5 of those in their head, and they see 30, they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that either. that's going to start to create a little bit of, doubt in their head and be like, okay, well, maybe I do need to talk to this person.
So there were 3 big items that you mentioned: telling client stories, crushing objections, and then highlighting and pressing on pain points that your ideal client has. So to fit that into emails, what order do you go in, and how many emails do you send someone after they download your lead magnet?
Yeah, so the first email should always be delivering your lead magnet saying, hey, this is what you opted in for, this is who I am, here's what you're going to be receiving from me, just to kind of set expectations. Second email we usually send is crushing some kind of objection, which we already mentioned. Third email, client success story. Again, that's going to be your bread and butter. And then, pressing on pain points as well. And essentially what we do is for the first 10 to 14 days is we'll cycle between those 3. In those first 14 days after opting in, people are going to be the warmest they're going to be. And they're going to be the most likely to actually book a call with you. After that, after 14 days, they're going to be a little bit colder. So we tend to taper to between once and twice a week after that. Some people, take a little bit longer. Financial services is obviously very trust-based. It can take a lot of touch points to actually get somebody to move towards booking a call and actually press the right button to actually get them to take action. But like we said before, after about 90 days of doing that, if you get 5 people to book a call with you out of every 100 subscribers, so 5%, that's a pretty reasonable expectation to have. Some people we see better results than that. If a client works with more high net worth investors that have a lot of trust that needs to be built, sometimes the results can be a little bit lower, but those clients tend to be a little bit higher value. So it really just depends on the niche that you're servicing, what kind of results we see with our clients.
Yeah, we see that with video as well. And a question I get really often is, if I want a $5 million client, is that worse than me wanting a $250,000 client when it comes to video? And everything we've seen is that the economics are about the same. You're absolutely going to get fewer $5 million clients than you would if you were going for $250,000 clients, right? So yes, one person is going to receive higher volume from a campaign like this on average, whereas the other is going to see far lower. But in terms of the net revenue for the campaign, they tend to balance. Are you seeing something similar?
Yeah, I think with lower net worth clients, like one of the clients I just started working with, his niche is U.S. Army, U.S. military, and we've been seeing quite a bit of book calls from him. But people in that situation tend to have a little bit lower net worth, and with another client, he just wants to target high net worth people. We've been working with him for a couple months. We've only seen a couple calls, but those calls tend to be much more valuable people. So kind of like you said, it tends to balance out.
Yeah, well, and I could also see there being a niche relation element in there. Like for the person working within military, is he also military?
Yes,
Yeah,
he is.
so if you're military and you're speaking to other service members, I could absolutely see there being a closer connection. You could get higher success rates if you have a better fit with your niche in some ways. So there are things that would skew that result. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take you longer to get a $5 million client than a $250,000 client.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think that long tail of emails is definitely something that people will discount. But I think it's so valuable. I 100% agree that people are at the warmest in 14 days. But there are some people where it's just not the right time, but you're on their mind. And if you can stay top of mind for a couple of months, you're far more likely to actually meet them where they want to be and when they're ready to have a conversation with you. So that's my next question to you. We have 14 days, 1 email per day, that is oscillating between the 3 main elements: client stories, crushing objections, and then making sure that we're pressing on those pain points. What happens after those 14 days when we transition into 1 a week or twice a week? How long does that go?
So still same thing, still same cycle: pain points, client success stories, objections. But we've built it out for various clients anywhere from 6 months to a year plus, because kind of like you said, sometimes it's just not the right time for somebody. Sometimes what actually moves people to action in financial services? A lot of times it's, a child graduating college. It's, getting older. They're like, okay, well, I need an estate plan now. It's a divorce. It's a death in the family. So you never know when you're going to actually send something that resonates with somebody and when those life events are going to hit. So by building it out as long as possible, you cast a little bit of a wider net and increase the chances of catching people at the right time. So to answer your question, I would try, if I was doing this just starting out, I would try to build it out at least 3 months to start, but anywhere from 6 months to a year plus, you can't really go wrong. It's just something you have to do one time. Like you don't have to use AI and, just put this out, as quickly as possible. It's really important to do this one time and do it the right way so that when, somebody does hit that, moment in their life when, you're the right person, you're the person that's showing up in their inbox and you're the one that's staying top of mind.
Yeah, that's the great thing about email marketing is once you build it, you don't have to hand crank it. You can send that same email every time someone signs up for your mailing list. But if you send everyone a really bad email that you threw together in ChatGPT, you might have 0 results. So it's a great lead into my next question, which is what role should AI play in email marketing right now? How should it be used by advisors?
I think it's great for ideation. Like if you don't know, if you work with a certain niche, you probably already know what their pain points are, ideally, if you've been working with them for a while, but you can always say, hey, I work with, NVIDIA executives, or, I work with firefighters. What are things that keep them up at night financially? In ChatGPT or whatever AI, it'll just list out those things. And you can be like, okay, I can make an email on this, and this. So I think it's great in that regard. I think it's great for pulling out, various pieces of content and emails from your client conversations that you have. But as far as actually writing the emails themselves, I showed an example of a ChatGPT generated email in your video New Year cohort that we just did a few hours ago. It's pretty obvious that it was some stock market update that was generated by ChatGPT that any advisor could have generated in 3 seconds, filled with those little M dashes that are a dead giveaway.
They're such a giveaway.
Dead giveaway. So if you are writing emails with ChatGPT, at the very least, delete the M dashes. Don't make it obvious. But if you want actual results from your email marketing, I would actually, either do the work yourself or outsource it to somebody. Like, don't just copy and paste AI emails. People can tell they're not very personal and they tend not to convert.
And just like social media marketing, video marketing, whatever it happens to be, the goal of the content is to stand out from all the other slop they're getting, right? So if you just keep adding to the noise and you're another AI gen something, then it's really not going to make a massive difference. Whereas if you take the moment to do it right, they're going to read that email and feel like that's the number one most valuable email they read that day. That's kind of that's the qualification that you're seeking there.
Yeah, and it makes you sound like every other financial advisor on earth too. Like anybody can write the same thing, the same stock market update, the same thing in ChatGPT. Like, why would anybody work with you,
Well, and one thing I've been seeing advisors doing is they are trying to separate themselves from every other advisor using hyper-personalization. So they're using AI to scrape a bunch of information on a given person. And whether they're sending a cold or a warmish email, they tend to use those tools to try to make the email very, very personalized to that individual. What do you think about that strategy, since I've seen it so much?
So I can see merit in it because you could have just looked on their LinkedIn profile and done research on them, for all they know. So some people may be like, okay, well, this person is actually doing the work to do the research on me. Me knowing what I know about a lot of the AI tools out there, I would be a little bit suspect. I'm like, okay, how does this person know so much about me? Especially, if I didn't opt in for anything and somebody's just reaching out to me, I'd be like, okay, well, who is this person? Where did they get my contact information? It would make me feel a little bit uneasy. Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's just how I feel.
Absolutely. And I never necessarily feel like someone understands me when they're personalizing it based on something about me. Like, I love it because I have lots of websites out there, and one of the testimonials on one of my business pages is actually a case study on me. And so I will get AI emails that say, "Hey, Nate, I can't believe you helped Nate add $6 million in new AUM to his firm. If I could get you insert whatever their pitch is, would that be worth a conversation?" And every time I'm just like, oh, I know exactly what you did. Because no human would have let that pass. They would have compared the names and been like, oh, this clearly isn't a real thing. You can tell it was just an automated email. And I think that people are just getting more and more inundated by that as they continue to have more conversations and continue to receive more emails in the age of AI.
Yeah, and I think that just makes, what we talked about, really showing that, like, you've worked with people like them and you've actually delivered results for people like them. That's just hilarious that he said, "Nate, great job helping Nate."
Yeah, it's just such a dead giveaway. And I love that now it's like a landmine in my digital mass, because now I can sort out the people who are sending me AI emails. It's just so common for it to pop up. But most people don't have that. They're going to get some sort of personalization on what college they went to or what they do for work, something along those lines. And I've personally found it to be far more resonant when I read an email that feels more so like someone understands what I'm going through, not who I am. So I subscribe to several people who will send me emails about building businesses, for example. And the people I read the most are the people who I feel understand exactly what pain I'm experiencing right now as a business owner. Those are the ones that I read, not the ones who are personalizing it to me. So I really resonate with what you're saying in terms of understand your niche and make sure that you're speaking directly to them. And the better that understanding, the better your emails are and the better your conversion rate.
That's a really important point you just said. People don't really want to understand. They want to be understood. And when they feel understood, that's when, conversations start to happen. One of the worst pieces of advice I think I hear from people that either, send emails or put out content is, just provide value or just, educate your audience. People don't follow financial advisors, or they don't follow you to be educated. They don't want to understand personal finance. They want to be understood. And when you show that you actually understand them, to your point, that's what actually moves the needle.
Absolutely. And I think so many advisors get stuck in like the reporter syndrome, where they want to go and find a piece of breaking news and either send that as a blog article or send that in an email or make a video about it, post it somehow. And it's like, did anyone really need you to collect that information? Like, do they feel like you understand them better because they sent you a pertinent email about like a piece of breaking news? It's like, not really. I never feel like someone who sends me a CNBC article really gets me.
No. That's something they could get from CNBC. They could watch Jim Cramer every night to get the latest breaking stock news. But one way I do see that actually work is when something that actually like affects them comes across. Like when the big beautiful bill first got passed, everyone is wondering, okay, well, how does this affect me? So we'll go back to the doctor niche. If you serve doctors and you're like, doctors, this is how the big beautiful bill will affect you, and you actually list out things, and if you want to actually see, how we can take this and use it to your advantage, book a call with me. That kind of thing works when really big news like that, but not, the weekly movements of the stock market, things that like aren't really affecting their day-to-day lives. And the stock market emails, the stock market updates, that's another thing, another big mistake a lot of advisors and firms make, because you're an advisor, what do you tell your clients as far as investing strategy?
Stay the course.
Stay the course, long-term investing. So if you're sending emails, every week about like, oh, here's what's going on with tariffs, here's what, the Chinese did, what's going to happen with, Taiwan Semiconductor, you're sending very mixed messages. On one hand, you're saying, okay, stay the course, long-term investing. And on the other hand, you're sending these updates like it's supposed to change something they're doing. It sends a very conflicting message. And I think that's something that a lot of firms and a lot of advisors like don't really realize that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to what should someone be experiencing when they're reading your emails, and using your framework of handling the objections and pressing on the pain points and sharing the client stories, what a prospective client should be feeling. And you can let me know if I'm kind of right on this, that they should be feeling like they understand my pain. They work with people who are like me. They've already seen my problems before. And you're right, that objection that I had might not have been as justified as I thought it was. Maybe that objection wasn't coming from a place of logic. It was coming from a place of fear or hesitation or procrastination.
No, I think you completely nailed it.
I think that's what so many advisors miss, and I think that's the number one mistake that I would say advisors are making right now with email, is they're forgetting that someone is supposed to feel a certain way when they're reading your emails. They just assume that if I provide enough value, if I do enough, if I give them enough stuff that they can read and enough news that they can have, then at some point they will assume that I am this source of truth. And they forget that we're building trust. And at the end of the day, trust is a feeling. It's not a logical thing necessarily. It is repeatedly knowing this person understands me. They work with people who are similar, and they understand why I'm hesitating from making this decision. And they're helping me to overcome my own hesitation around getting the help that I need, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. A lot of advisors and firms, like in their content, in their emails, on their websites, they want to showcase how smart they are. And, you might have the alphabet soup of certifications next to your name. You might know everything there is to know about backdoor Roth IRAs, but when you speak in that financial technobabble, people don't know what the hell you're talking about that are outside the financial industry. So, one of the other biggest mistakes is writing at a level that people can't read. We mentioned this on our call earlier. The average American reads at the 7th grade reading level. And that doesn't mean they're stupid. That just means that if they're reading something online or they're reading an email, they're just going to skip right over it if it's too hard to read and they don't understand it. And they're going to do it without even thinking about it. So one of the really useful tools that I use in everything I write is a free app called Hemingway. You can literally just copy and paste anything you write into it, and it'll tell you what reading level grade that your writing's at. It'll tell you what to take out. It'll tell you what sentences are hard to read. And the goal there should be to keep it, between a 5th and 7th grade reading level. I think Alex Hormozy, who's, one of the best known marketers out there, even went as far to say keep it at a 3rd grade reading level. But that might be a little bit too simplistic. Anywhere between 5th and 7th, I'd say is really good. But yeah, Hemingway app, if you're writing emails, if you're writing content, even video scripts, pasting it into there and just taking out all the filler, making things super easy to understand is a great way to increase engagement and increase conversions.
Well, and when you get down to the 2nd and 3rd grade reading levels, you start doing weird things like removing contractions. So instead of saying it's, you say it is, because technically that's a simpler method of speech. And it's like, that's all right, everyone understands what IT''S means. It's more about what framework am I putting this in so that they can actually understand it without feeling like they're reading. They're not trying to read a line a couple of times to get the meaning. They just get the meaning and they're ready to move forward and start thinking about the next thing. So I agree. 5th to 7th seems really, really correct. If an advisor wanted to start email marketing today, let's assume they have zero experience in it and they have only maybe sent like newsletters and they've sent emails to their clients. What's a checklist for them to get started?
So number one is having some kind of free asset to give away. You can start out with a newsletter. I know you've built, a decent size email list just from a newsletter with your audience. Giving away some kind of incentive, I feel is just gets a little bit more conversion. So, say you just serve high net worth individuals, something like the 10 tax mistakes high net worth individuals make. Or, going back to the doctor's example, tax mistakes doctors make that cost them long-term wealth. Having some kind of free asset in a PDF that people get in exchange for their email is a great way to start, and then talking about that in your videos, your social media content, having a landing page on your website. And when they see that, they put their name, they put their email, and then that's when they get the lead magnet in the first email, and then they get the predetermined sequence that we've already gone over.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. That's extremely valuable. So, as we all know, you also help advisors do this. I think that the best advisors will make decisions around what to do themselves and what to delegate, rather than trying to say, I have to do every single thing. So for the advisors who choose to delegate, what does it look like to work with you?
So typically what we'll do is I'll send them a questionnaire and get to know the advisor, get to know the firm, get to know the clients they work with, find out what their pain points are, find out what common objections come up in calls all the time, gather client success stories, the framework we already mentioned, and from one meeting, we're essentially able to take all of that and turn it into an email sequence for you. So instead of spending, 24, 48 hours of your own time writing the emails yourself, we essentially just take all of that off your hands for you. And if you need help with lead magnets, that's something that we can help with as well. Writing it, making it clear, making it easy to understand. We help with the landing pages. We help with the entire funnel. It's really dependent on the needs of the firm. But as far as email goes, it's something that we meet with from time to time. We meet with each other from time to time to go over, analytics, results, that kind of thing. But all you really have to do is give me the information, and I take it and run with it from there and take it off your hands.
I love it. And I'll make sure to put in the show notes how they can get in touch with you. And I highly recommend to anyone listening that they go ahead and download your lead magnet, not necessarily because I want them to convert for you, but because I think it's important to look at it with a scientist's eye on what is Patrick doing in his own email marketing. Watch the master at work in his own business. Take what you can from that. Even if they don't end up working with you, I think it would be a really valuable thing for them to watch in action. So,
yeah, absolutely. The lead magnet he's mentioning is my email checklist for financial advisors. It goes over a lot of the things that we talked about here on this call. Just check by check step list of things to go through just to make sure you're doing, common mistakes to avoid, all things we've gone over. But it's a really helpful asset for people to have.
Yeah, and thank you for making it available for free. That's the wonderful thing about email marketing, is that you can provide value up front and you gain the permission to see if there's more value you can add later. So with that, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Patrick.
Thanks, man. Enjoyed it.